All right, everyone. My name is Manav Jethani. I'm the host of the podcast Simply Being by NWWRD. And today we have a very iconic and very special guest with us. He's been in the industry for a long time and he has left a big mark. And I assume most of our audience know who this man is, but everyone still welcome Mr. Chris Bangle here.
That's nice.
Mr.
Thank you,
Bangle, would you
Manav.
like to introduce yourself for us?
Okay, thanks, Manav. My name is Chris. Uh, I'm living in Italy as well. I think you are too, right? You're up in Torino? Yeah. So we're all
Yes.
in this kind of northern area of Italy. And this morning finds me down in a room in our studio called The Cave, Mario's Cave, which we like this name. And it's a good place to think. And so I'm looking forward to talking to you guys today.
Awesome. So, Mr. Bangle, you have been a lot around the world. You have worked for the past few decades as a designer, and now you have your own firm, Chris Bangle Associates, where you do design consultancy and other things related to design as well.
Yeah,
So, I think today will be a very good time talking with you about your design story and your experiences that you have went through as a designer, also as a leader and as an innovator. So, with that, let's ask with the most important thing, the thing that you're known for around the world for your work at BMW. Now, you're there for almost a decade now, and throughout that timeline, you have released a number of vehicles with a number of changes and designs that have lasted a long time, that have impacted our lives. Some of them are my favorites, not to say the M3 and the M4 that was released during your era was still one of my favorite cars of all time. And with that, I would like to say is how were you able to manage the responsibility of leading the team that executed the product launches as well as the design, the creativeness, the engineering, and everything? How were you able to manage the leadership role?
well, the total time at BMW was from uh, 1982 till 2009. So that's 17 years or something like that. Or it came out to about like that, 17 years. So
Oof.
1992, I think. Yeah, 1992 until 2009. So some stuff that we did long before was released at the end. For instance, I see Gina is making the rounds these days. Gina was actually started in 1999. Imagine that. It was constructed in 2000. It was finished in January of 2001. And then it was put in a box until 2008. So, I mean, some of this stuff like Gina, Jiminy Christmas, this thing is quite, it's going on 25 years that it's since its conception. Other products, of course, get released afterwards. So, responsibilities for that. Probably, I could say design, car design. I'll only speak from car design. Okay, so if I say design management, I'm always intending to say car design management. Car design management is very peculiar. It is, I believe, rather unique in many aspects. And there's kind of two ways to go about it. One way is very self-protective, but also not particularly enhancing to a culture. And that is where you as a manager say, okay, you just do everything I say. Okay, so you treat the entire team, the entire culture as if it's an extended wrist. I would draw it like this. Now I use your hand and you draw it like this, that kind of thing. And you can think of examples of design directors who have done basically that. They say, I have a taste. My taste is this. I will, export that onto the team. You will execute that. This is very healthy for a design director because you're not asked to do anything outside of what you usually consider your comfort zone. It's extremely non-productive for a team. Can be extremely frustrating. Tends to be places with high turnovers because the people don't feel like they can do anything on their own. The culture itself tends to stagnate, and then there's usually a huge leap when that person leaves, and then another person comes. So from a corporate point of view, you have to ask yourself: is this really the most smartest way to go about it? Right. The other approach is the one I
Mhm.
took, is where you as a manager, you try to put yourself a bit more in the back seat. You say, okay, I'm here to learn this culture. When I got to BMW, I said, I'm here to learn for a couple of years. I'm not here to tell you what to do. And then slowly but surely, you work out the ways the programs work where you get what the company wants done, but and you yourself learn to grow with it. And from a, let's say, corporate strategic point of view, this is a lot smarter because what you're creating is a culture. You're not just creating clones of yourself. You're creating a culture, and that culture can be healthy and go on for a long time without you. And I think BMW's had that kind of culture. From a personal point of view, it's hyper destructive because you yourself have to take yourself apart in a certain sense and re-identify with everything that everybody is doing around you and turn that into you, because as a spokesperson for design, as the leader in the sense of representing design, if it isn't you, nobody's going to believe you. So for it to become you, you have to subsume your own personality inside of what other people are defining, that you've helped empower to do that, which is quite wonderful. But at the same time, it's extremely, extremely stressful and destructive on your own personality. And so, I mean, that's a route I took, not knowing that that's what would come out of it. And I found it to be wonderfully rewarding, but extremely, extremely stressful from that point of view, which is different than typical management stress, where they demand all this shit, and you don't have any time to do it, and you don't have any money, or whatever. The typical management stress, right? This is a different kind of stress. This is a stress where you yourself are becoming. You have to be something else other than your natural will to do it. I always say the last car I actually drew every line on was a coupe Fiat, right? So if you want to know what kind of cars I like, maybe that's an example of it. I mean, I don't know because I stopped doing it at that point. I really love Reds, the car we did afterwards, right? This little wacky car. I love that thing to death. I think it's really wonderful, and I really identify with it. But identify with it not because I drew it or did it. Matteo Mariuzzo did it, right? But identify with it because this is how I've come to enjoy integrating myself into a team of creatives. So if your leadership style can be that, you'll find a lot of reward in it. Is
Yeah,
that okay?
sounds good. Yeah. And how has this rewarding thing has worked for you? Like, how has this affected your life afterwards?
Well, what I think is helpful about it is you cannot do this approach without assuming kind of a meta level above the stuff happening
Hmm.
on the shop floor. You know, I will bring in my handy flip chart. You see, I come equipped with a flip chart. You didn't expect visuals in your podcast, did you? Okay, I like this kind of stuff. This is like fun. Okay, so this is what I like to. Where are we on this thing? You're here. Okay, good. Okay, if you imagine, kind of like what an American football field looks like. It doesn't matter. It can be a soccer pitch. But when you put these on it, immediately it's a football field, right? Otherwise, a soccer pitch is a little bit more difficult. I guess it's got this kind of circle in the middle or some shit like this, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's got some stuff like this, right? Okay. Anyway, the idea is the same, right? You get the idea. Okay. This is
Hmm.
the game. That's where design happens on. It happens on this playing field, right? And there's really strong
Hmm.
barriers around this game, you
Hmm.
know. And there are
Hmm.
barriers like this costs too much. There's a barrier called I've never seen that before. There's a barrier called nobody will buy that. There's a barrier called that's not our brand. These are all barriers that are erected around a designer who's trying to move around on here. And so one of the ideas of design research is to try and make this playing field a little bit bigger. So you get a little bit more
Hmm.
space. Like Gina is an example. Maybe we enlarge the playing field a little bit. Let people work with negative surfaces, stuff like that. Okay, so that's what
Yeah.
you want to do like this. However, you should know that there are kind of almost an infinite layer of depths below that, which get very technical. Okay, this is a very
Hmm.
technical, detailed depth. I guess red on red you can't read. I'll just do it in green again.
No, it's okay.
Yeah. Okay. So the more you go down there, the more you find ways where you can, be here with a problem area, you can go down there, come back, and you'll come back up here with a solution. If
Okay.
you were to, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, but if you look at the really great car designers like Gandini, Giugiaro, these people know how to
Hmm.
play down here like masters. They know the
Yeah.
techniques of a car better than the engineers, and their advice. I mean, I've heard Giugiaro say this to students. His advice is always the same: become a better engineer than the engineers, right? That's his advice. So they know how to play down here really well, which is a really good thing. And I would advise it to any young designer. Learn the techniques of the craft, right, and of the product. But there are also kind of infinite layers of this thing happening up at a meta level. So this is
Mm-hmm.
a meta level of the same thing. This is car design, but in a completely different lens. So
Okay.
if you're used to working up here, then doing something like this cartoons back here, you see on the board behind me, which to us
Mm-hmm.
is car design done in another medium, but it's still car design. We're still trying to put character and personality into an object. That's what our cartoons are about. Then you'll have no problem finding solutions up here. Go up to a meta level, go over and come back down again, and you'll find solutions down on the game field. But to do that, you have to be accustomed to working in the meta level. So back to your question, how has this approach helped me? It helped me get out of down here, where I was really putting a lot of my thought into, and get me up into this level. And once you're up here, you begin to realize how many other things it can be music, it can be physics, it can be philosophies, it can be architecture, it can be religion, it can be many things are actually related to issues you're trying to deal with down on the game field, but you never saw them before because you never went up there to explore it. But once you release yourself from this need to be, I'm the leader on the field, I have to make a decision after decision after decision. No. Wait, are you, in American football, you say, are you going to quarterback the whole thing? You have your team do that. That's what you got a team for. Your team is down here. You're supposed to be above that, right? So what does above that mean? It means getting up here and finding stuff for them that they never would have thought to look for. And I enjoy doing that. My team now that I work with is accustomed to dealing with me like that. And they have their own ideas and they come with their own solutions. And now I think we have probably at CBA, we have a team which is extremely fluid to this the entire spectrum. And I really appreciate that. I really like that.
Perfect. It sounds good. It sounds really good. I like the way that you explained it using the your soccer pitch, because that really eased
Yeah,
down the
yeah.
process of understanding.
Well, that belongs to a way of understanding any type of, uh, I say the word competitive, but let's say decision-making processes where you have known
Mm-hmm.
factors that are in conflict, you have known results that have to come out of it, etc. It's called game theory. And
Mm-hmm.
actually, game theory can provide a whole lot of interesting help in understanding car design if you allow it. So I would encourage. I mean, your podcast is being watched by young car designers, I assume, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so I would tell these girls and guys, start letting your mind go through up and down. Get it on the soccer pitch itself. You're just trying to learn how to kick the damn ball, right? I know it takes you 10,000 hours of that, and you have to do that. Okay, don't not do that. But at the same time, try and allow your mind to encompass these other areas, and don't forget the technical one, because that's where you can really get a secret help. I was.
Yeah.
Do you mind me? Do you mind me riffing on this for a second, Manav?
Yeah. Sure. Sure.
Okay, so I had lunch yesterday with some guys who asked me, like, why, not only why do cars look the same and shit like that, right? Everybody here knows this story, right? But they asked me a specific question. They said specifically, will the electric car basically kill design because of the limitations involved in some of the packaging on it? Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
I said to him, think of this thought model. I get to draw you another picture. See, that's why I did this. So you get to get another picture. See, you get pictures from Chris. Okay, good.
This is a
Okay,
really good thing, visual representation.
really? Okay. So this
Yeah.
is this is a designer. Okay,
Okay.
and let's make this 100% of what they're interested in. Okay, and the
Okay.
stuff that they're going to be interested in is, let's say, the techniques of cars. That's the stuff down here of
Mm-hmm.
cars. The future of cars, future of the auto, old time cars, and anything that's not a car. Okay, so we have these four layers, and let's just assume that every young designer their interest is made up of these, and it adds up to 100%, right? Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
now I'm going to
Yeah.
give you two people to look at. One is a designer today, young designer,
Mm-hmm.
and the other is, let's say, a maestro.
Mm-hmm. Like
Like
you.
now, specifically the era of Gandini and Giugiaro.
Ah, okay.
Fioravanti, Gandini, Giugiaro,
See,
these guys, Paul Brock, I mean, we're talking guys who were at their best 60s, 70s, 80s, they were really well known, not at their best, but let's say they were most well known then, okay?
yeah.
So we're going to take those guys and we're going to compare that to a young person, all right, today.
Okay.
My feeling is that these guys, this part that was their technical interest was about here. About 50% of their interest was that. If it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
that, it was in the future of cars. These two things
Mm-hmm.
made up the lion's share of what they were thinking about. Okay? The
Okay.
techniques of cars and the future of cars. Honestly, I don't think, with the exception of Fioravanti and his expertise in Ferraris, basically those guys back then didn't really care that much about old timers. I mean, I've never really seen them collect cars or go to old timer event. Maybe, but I've never seen it. My feeling is the past to them. The
Yeah.
future. It's all about the future. And then, so this is about zero for these guys. And then everything left over is not cars, architecture and product design, etc. My
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'd like your listeners to prove me wrong, and I would love it if they would prove me wrong. But my feeling is today, unless you're some kind of die-hard car nut kind of guy, we're talking about young designers, okay? Your interest in the technical cars is really low. It just is low because somebody else understands that. You're not into that, okay? Your interest in the future of cars, it's not about cars, it's about mobility. It's not about the future of cars, it's about mobility, right? Your interest in
Yeah.
old timers is really high, and everything else is really high. So to me, these two, old time cars and things that are not cars, film, music, video, artificial intelligence, Photoshop, whatever, this this is
Mm-hmm.
fascinating to young people today. Old timer cars are fascinating, right? But the future of the auto per se, but and so when it comes down to
Mm-hmm.
solving a problem, like the limits on redesigning around chassis issues, like this guy was asking me about, if you came at it with a mentality
Mm-hmm.
of these guys, your mental picture
Mm-hmm.
was completely different. Your mental picture was you solve it technically, and it's about the future. So it's got to be different. We have to push, 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 push. If you come at it from this
That's true.
mentality, there's a great risk. I'm not saying it will, but there's a great risk that you're saying, okay, it is what it is. Let me see how to make it a little bit different. And I'll draw all my cues from old time cars. All right. So this is, I think, one of the critical issues that young designers have today is how do we take the context in which we live, the reality in which we are, the issues of having grown up in a world of indecisiveness. I mean, one of my young designers was telling me yesterday, do you realize the amount of the stress of insecurity that her generation has had to go through? It's completely different than my generation. We grew up in a cocoon, everything, future bright, et cetera, et cetera. So here's the trick. How do you take that issue, which is undeniable, you cannot deny that stress, and turn it into something here where the positive part that comes out surprises all of us by saying this is where cars really should go.
Possible. It's possible.
I
Like,
hope so.
yeah. But the other thing is, as you explained about the way the mentality of the young designers work. So, is it also possible that they could have 30% of inspiration from the past because we have like decades of knowledge of the past cars? Unlike the maestros, they only had of like 20 or 30 years of cars knowledge.
Oh, that's
But we have
bullshit.
more than that.
Oh, that's
No?
bullshit. Sorry, that's bullshit. Okay, I mean, come on, the car's been around since before 1900. If you're designing cars in 1970, you've got a shitload of car history on your shoulders. And not only that, those guys knew it. Okay, I would be very questionable if anybody today knows anything about cars that doesn't appear in Wikipedia or on the first search that goes. Sorry, I mean, when I ask people, when I see a young person's car and I say, this just looks like a show car that was done in the 80s, and I bring it up, then nobody knows those cars, right? Because they don't appear on anybody's searches. So, big grain of salt on that one. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. I love the old cars. My interest in cars history went every year I was in Europe, it went back 5 years in time. When I got here, I thought cars in the 70s in America were really cool. Little by little by little by little went back. I got into the 60s, I got into the 50s, I got into the 40s, the 30s, and now I think really cool are coaches done in 1700s. Have you looked at those things? There's one
Yeah,
that they're fucking fantastic. I mean, there's a coach. I was at this guy's place in France. Okay, it's a private museum. I don't really know where it is. It's somewhere by Bergerac. Okay, we're at this museum, and this guy's got this coach, with the big wheels. Right? Sorry, I'm not
no, it's
drawing.
okay.
I'm not drawing very well today. Okay, he's got this
Don't
coach
worry.
that looks like this. Okay, so I mean, a person is this big. Okay, just to put it in scale. But what you're looking at there was so cool because the sections went out, and then from here they actually went back. This was really wide in the front. Okay, the front of this thing is kind of like an overhang, like this, where the guys sat, I guess, like that. But by the time this thing got to the back, it had narrowed up like this. So this entire thing was doing a twist like that. It had a tiny little window in the back. Okay, really sophisticated. And the thing was made out of paper. I mean, this is
Sheesh.
laminated paper from the 1700s to make this horse coach. And you're looking at these surfaces and you go, Christ, what a fantastic twist this thing's got going on. It's just absolutely gorgeous. So I like stuff from the past too.
Well, no doubt there, because previously there were the coach building thing in like before the industrial revolution took over was really really good.
That was
Because
really cool
before that,
stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, this whole business about, if you go back into the really look at some of those old carriages, they are phenomenally expressive. They're really wacky. We tend to think of these little boxes on wheels and stuff like that, but they weren't like that at all. I mean, that was cabs were like that, etc. Which is probably why they're still around. You go to a park and you take a ride in one, but the ones that were really exotic are all destroyed. Because they were one-offs.
yeah, no, true. Recently, I attended the Concours d'Eleganza in Como, and I saw some of the old coach buildings from the 1800s there.
Oh, really?
So what
That's so cool.
Yeah, so what baffled me was they were long and they were huge, but the thing is, it's almost impossible to design something like that if a business is involved. Because those things were done by artisans and craftsmanship and, people who have dedicated a lot of years to make that art form. And you don't see that every day happening right now.
Yeah, but I think you guys should prepare for a change in how the automobile is perceived as well. I mean, this is what we did with Reds. Like if you say that the car goes from A to B,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and this is what you're designing for. Okay, with Reds, when we did the car, we realized the sum of the time it spends here is 90% of its life. This is 10% of its life. Okay, so let's design for the 90%, make it really cool. Let's make it work at the 10%. I mean, you have to actually drive the damn thing, right? And it did. It's a drivable car, right? It works. But at these two, it's phenomenal. Okay, now start to look at the next point. Start to look at this space right here, and right here, where you are not stopped, but you're not on the road yet either. Okay, so what happens
Okay.
at that? That's where, like, when you get an Uber, that's when you're getting in and out of an Uber, for instance. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. All right. Now imagine if getting in and out of an Uber, that's where the car did its entire thing. How the doors open up,
Mm-hmm.
like complete theater, how the car changes, how you feel so special that's why I always order this kind of car from, I don't know, Lyft or Uber, whoever it is, right? As opposed to another. Because suddenly The car right here in the middle, you're not even giving a damn about the car, right? You're just running on your cell phone or whatever. You just want to have the creature comforts inside, right? And it's not like,
Yeah.
oh, I see that going by. No. But at this moment, right there, and it's not even parked because once it's parked, you're out, right? It's at
Yeah.
that moment right there when you're getting in and out where the entire concept of what is car design suddenly shifts.
That's
So
true.
I think this the idea that these guys gave us these incredible boats and huge things, etc. We may say, okay, that was a relic of the past, that we'll never come by that again. But it may also be that our whole concept of what is the automobile in our lives, if does it become gamified? How would you take gamification into the automobile, the world automobile? I mean, geez, your generation, my personal belief is your generation has probably the highest amount of fresh, new experiences to bring into the automobile than any generation previously, because every generation previously could only add a few mechanical skills onto it and a few things like that. Your generation has a different perception of the world. Seriously, a different perception. And my hope is out of that comes fantastic, fantastic inspiration in cars.
Wow. Yeah. I think you may be right because we have recently discovered design as a very important form of studying, as a very important form of practice that has to be done. And it's not like engineering or studying business or studying medical, which have been done for ages. Design is something that is relatively new that have been understood by the world as how it forms, how it creates, and what is the entire process to do the things. So yeah, I think we might be the you know the most advantageous batch of designers, I guess.
You gotta step up to the challenge. Okay, so
Yeah.
you're not going to step up by the challenge by doing the same Ferrari's been done before, but you change a tweak in it, and now you can say I did it, right? Sorry, this stuff is just
No.
bores the hell out of me. When I see these in portfolios and stuff, I go, why doesn't it go the other way? At least it would be interesting then.
Yeah.
We just did a
No.
project with a young guy where he did probably the hardest car design project I've ever seen. Okay, super courageous young guy named Pablo, and he did a 2E based car, right? Which takes a whole nother podcast to go into. But if you can get your head around the idea that you have to design taking into account pre-designed work and incorporate that, and then also know that what you're designing is going to have another use after that, and take that into account, then the idea of a holistic aesthetic where everything is like one shape and then cut into little parts doesn't work anymore. And that is, however, I think the only way your generation is going to solve us all from how we're screwing up the planet, right? You got to get around this, your head around this idea that design has to take multiple lives, and even cars, they have to have multiple lives in what they're doing. So that also changed things and give you guys a chance to bring expression, your music, your love of art, your ideas about how people should be together and work together and how humanity should be treat one another. Give that a different feeling and use cars for it. What the hell? Why not?
Sure, why not? Why not? Because car is just like a product, just like every other thing. It is a tool that is used by us to create our life more easily, live more easily. And
Well, that sounds a lot like an automobile. Sorry. Okay. I want you to give me a car. Cars are not automobiles. Automobile. Self-moving. A bloody elevator is an automobile, right? You push the button, it moves by itself, right? Automobile, right? I want a car. Cars. The root of cars goes back thousands of years. In Italian, it's beautiful because it makes you think of cara. Loved one. How beautiful. Caress. I want sex appeal in this car. I want emotion. I want to feel. I want it charged with eroticism. I want it charged with love. I want to charge sex and anything you can think of, which moves me emotionally. Okay, let the automobile part of it get me from A to B. I want the car design in you to move me so much emotionally that I say I have to be there. I want to be. I want that to be me. That's me. Then we got
yeah,
it. Then you got it. Now you're doing car design.
awesome, perfect, perfect. So yeah, and clearly you have had like a lot of these moments in your life as well, I can assume, where you felt like you have designed something so good that you feel a part of it, you feel it yourself. And that reminds me to ask you because I'm a young designer and I'll be facing such problems as well. When you started right after you finished, studying, how has your design philosophy has evolved? Like from the day one as a designer to today,
We
what
get
changes have you faced? How has it evolved? That's true.
so I think there's a nice analogy. There's a book, a couple books on design. I would suggest you to read. Okay, one of the books on design, which
Hmm.
is easy reading, but you can read it in an afternoon, but it'll take you an entire lifetime to understand it. Is Italo Calvino's book, Invisible Cities. Do you know this book? Have you read this book, Invisible Cities?
Hmm.
It's a
I've
it's a
heard.
okay. It's a book about a set of the chapters are like each chapter is like 2 pages, right? It's a set of dialogues between Marco Polo and the Chinese Emperor Kublai Khan, in which Marco Polo describes cities he's visited, which are completely imaginary, and how these cities work. Very particular, very detailed. And from every city, you get an understanding about how humanity works. And one of the cities is a city where, when you enter, your eyes are down. You look down. You're like watching every step. You're being very careful. You watch every step. Okay. No, wait. I have the city backwards. You start by looking up. My mistake. Can you erase that from this pod? I got it backwards. You start by watching up because you look up, you see the sky is wonderful, you see the city, see the silhouette of the city, you look up, right? And as you walk along, every day you're passing the same routes, etc. You begin to always bring your eyes down to not step in a mistake, dog crap or a manhole cover or something. And at the end of your time in the city, you spend your eyes only looking down. Okay. So when I was a young designer, I think I looked up at the geniuses before me. I aspired to be like them. I look at a guy like Sid Mead and I go, oh, gosh, I'd only be as genius as this guy. That'd be so cool, right? And then as I worked on my craft to try and become better at drawing, to be better things, my eyes just got progressively down. And I forgot to look up. I forgot to be amazed. I was so busy looking down at trying to do things right and correct things that I forgot that there's wonder in life if we can just relax and look up at it instead of being critical like this. Oh, they didn't do this right or this right. Let's look at it from this point of view and say, you know what? That inspires me. That's cool. I like this. Thank you for doing that, etc. And I think philosophically, many people's philosophies drive them in this downward vision point of view because it's all about making no mistakes and all about maximum performance or whatever criteria metrics you want to put on it, and that's really not good. It's certainly not healthy if you want your mind to grow and if you want to be able to get the most out of what's happening up here. So I would say philosophically, I think I've tend to pull back. Philosophically, hopefully tended to let go. My people would be, my guys, my team here would be shocked to hear me say that, because they think I'm like some kind of control freak. But I'm actually doing my best to not be that kind of control freak. So I think philosophically, you have to go through those phases of realizing that you're walking around with your head down and realizing that this is not right. And maybe at the beginning that's not possible. But if you can manage it over time, please change your point of view. That's what life is all about. Change your point of view. Is that okay?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, sounds good. Sounds absolutely good.
Cool.
And yeah, before we go, just a little tiny thing. What would be the advice that you would give to the young aspirant who want to be like you or who inspires from you?
Um, okay, follow your own course. Of course, everybody can tell you that, and I will too. Um, Certainly, the lucky breaks I had, the help I got, you'll have to find your own lucky breaks. You have to find your own help. Okay, but acknowledge it when you got it. You know, um, I think maybe the thing I would really like people to do, particularly those who are absolutely fanatical about car design. Okay, I would like you to open your minds and say car design is not just about automobiles. Car design is about anything where you're putting character and personality into a product. And why I'm telling you that is that's missing in our world. Our world needs that, right? And for many people, maybe watching this podcast, they're unlucky enough to have a passport that doesn't let them work in a place where those automobile companies are because they're not everywhere in the world, right? And I get a lot of emails from young people that are very
Hmm.
frustrated. What can you do to help me get a job? And well, I'm sorry, but it's not up to me. Our world is completely unfair and screwy in that sense, you know. So the trick is, can I find satisfaction in another way? Can I get my work as a car designer appreciated, even if what I'm doing is a bottle? Okay. And this is where I would like people to come to me and say, Matt, Chris, what do you think of this car I drew? And it looks just like every other Lamborghini, Ferrari, whatever else. And I go, okay, thank you, very nice. You've learned how to draw. Good, right? I would like them to say to me, Chris, here's I don't know, a chair, a washing machine I did. But I wanted it to feel like car design. I want personality in it. I wanted to take it beyond the aesthetic of minimalism and everything. Well, what do you think of this? That's what I want to hear from these people, because that way car design establishes itself as a true discipline. It's not just linked to the damn things with four wheels. Okay, so I encourage your authors, your readership here, your young women out there and young men out there who are trying to become car designers. Open up your minds. Open up your minds and see how much of the world desperately wants you to put your signature on it as a car designer, so we can say we live in your age. We live in a time where this happened. When that happens, if car design takes the world by a storm, like uh, let's say, organic design did in the age of Art Nouveau, you know, when everything looked like a
Mhm.
plant. Everything from a metro station in Paris to a chair to a house to a mirror to furniture, it all looked like organic plants, okay? When that same sort of overriding phenomenon is being driven by people who have a passion for character, a passion for personality, a passion for the emotion that they can put into aesthetics, then we've said, hot damn, we've arrived at a new age. We're not there yet.
No, it will take time.
Okay, how's that?
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds awesome. And with that, I would like to end this podcast with you, Mr. Bangle. I hope you had a good time with us.
That's fun. That's fun.
Awesome. Perfect. Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.